Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flickering Myth. My name is EJ Marino, and I have a whole gaggle of film critics here to talk about
And me.
Zach. Well, you're a film critic, Alan. You critique films on the internet, therefore you deserve the thing. I've never went to college for this. I don't know. So, what makes someone a critic? Anyways, we're talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut. This whole 4-hour movie that I really liked and I've reviewed on this channel multiple times. You guys can see it. So yes, Alan is joining me as usual. Thank you for joining me today. But we also have Tom and Sean from the Flickering Myth channel. I was gonna say Tom used to do a awesome podcast that I really like. And I don't know, do you still do that podcast, Flicks and the Picks?
No, Pick of the Flicks is gone. I've now gone super niche, and I do a podcast about the underseen British TV show Waterloo Road, which no one watching this channel will know anything about. But that's cool. So that's what I spend my time doing.
I will have to go check it out because I really enjoyed your other podcasts, and I love learning about niche things. So, but yes, and Sean is he took away time from South by Southwest reviews to speak with us today. So thank you for taking time from the festival.
Oh, my pleasure. It's nice to have a little break, to be honest. The films just start to sort of blur together after a while.
Speaking of a movie blurring together, let's talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I really enjoyed this film. I've reviewed it a couple times. Alan, you are my usual buddy here. How did you feel about this film? You don't have to give it a rating, just like a quick little thought of.
Well, I liked it a lot more when it was happening, and then like the next day I felt hungover from watching 4 hours straight of a fucking Justice League movie. So it kind of, I don't know, I felt positively about it. I remember it as opposed to the 2 times I watched the theatrical cut and it just would not stick. It was good. It was the 4 hours
asterisk next to that good, it seems.
It's all the 4 hours.
We all saw it. He didn't have to.
The 4 hours is the unforgivable part. Like,
yeah.
It's overindulgent. It didn't have to be like that. He's like, my vision is something unwatchable.
I was just talking about the word indulgent before you got on. I was just saying, I'm like, well, aren't all movies indulgent? And then I was just like, yes, but this movie is very, very indulgent. But also, here's what I will think just quick about the indulgent thing. If you guys feel, I, as a Snyder fan, feel like I'll never really get another film from him. So I really did enjoy those extra 2 minutes of Lois Lane walking to give a dude coffee. I was just like, I want to live in this world a little bit more. Do I want to see old Jimmy Olsen here? No, but hey, someone nerdy got that reference in this movie. So yeah, no. So I definitely agree. Tom, how do you feel? Because we'll get back to you, Alan, because
there's a lot to cover.
So yes, Tom, how do you feel?
I was kind of surprised by how much I didn't hate it. I was sort of braced to hate it because I thought the 2017 cut was like totally okay. It was a mess, but I thought it was semi-entertaining. This is equally semi-entertaining. It's just less of a mess, but it is twice as long. And at times it doesn't feel like it's long, but at times it feels like it's long. And I was sat there on a Thursday morning with my like tea and crumpets because I'm English, watching the Snyder Cut. And to be honest, I'd convinced myself I was never going to see it, that it was never going to happen. And so the fact it exists is kind of impressive. And I think you just sort of have to admire it for its existence. I was surprised by how much I like enjoyed being in the world, and there were characters who I previously didn't care about, who I found myself caring about a bit. And so that was good. I do think the last hour is a pretty generic CGI smash-a-thon, and so I've seen it done better. But I thought, the sort of opening hour and a half, 2 hours, where it's doing character beats and it's doing, like you say, Lois Lane walking around with cups of coffee. I kind of didn't mind that stuff. I thought that was actually quite interesting. Some of the new stuff does nothing for it. Some of the new stuff does everything for it.
Yeah.
And so overall, I finished the 4 hours kind of satisfied. I mean, the epilogue is a different matter, and I wish they'd just cut
Yeah,
that
we will
part
have
off.
a 8-hour conversation about the nightmare sequence. We will.
Like, oh my god! Like, I know what I'm going to do. I've been given the absolute freedom to make a 4-hour version of this film. I'm going to shoot something new, a trailer for a movie I will never make. Fantastic!
All right, Sean, how do you
Damn
feel?
you, Snyder! You nearly had me. You nearly had me.
I went in with very low expectations, and I came out pleasantly surprised for the most part. Like, I think this is the best and worst of Zack Snyder because it's very unsubtle, but it's also very operatic and kind of does feel like it has a vision, which I would say the Whedon cut did not. To me, that just felt like studio mandated, which is pretty much what it was. You know, we are ticking boxes to get $1 billion at the box office, which it didn't get. Whereas this actually feels like someone had a vision that they wanted to fulfill, for better and for worse. And yeah, it's messy and all over the place, but I had fun with it. Yeah.
Can you imagine the Warner Brothers financial planner where they're like, Joss Whedon's Justice League, not $1 billion. Joker, $1 billion. Like, what?
It's got to mess with your head.
What is the Warner Brothers? I mean, that's the state of Warner Brothers right now. They've always been a brand I've enjoyed. Their DC is crazy though, and this DC is the craziest of their crazy. I want to kick off with some of our favorite parts though. We all kind of gave our general outline of it. We know my feelings. I adored it. This was fun. This was everything I wanted it to be. There's still things I don't like. We'll get into my least favorite stuff, but man, the CG can somehow be the most beautiful thing ever and so ugly. Sometimes in the same scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, how?
Oh, yeah.
But I will say, I think overall CG, how do you guys feel about Flash? I think he is my overall favorite character from this cut. And I think his visuals kind of got a really good look. I think they did well with his visuals, where sometimes Martian Manhunter looks insane and like a CW character. But hey, I also have questions about how long he's been Martha.
Oh God, I hated that. I despised that.
We will talk about
the worst.
Batman doesn't care that a green dude who calls himself Manhunter just turned up at his house. Sure, see you in the Justice League, dude.
He truly was just like, I want to go back and sleep.
Yeah.
Batman being befuddled by all of this is my favorite part of this movie. Ben Affleck's Batman is my favorite part of this movie. I despise like taking that Martha moment away from like being like, this is the fucking dude that's been the military guy that's just come to get Lois Lane out of a funk because he's a shapeshifter. Like, what the fuck was that? I thought that was terrible.
It completely undermines what was actually a pretty well done scene until then. Like, it had some emotion to it, and then Green Goblin thing. Sure.
Like, imagine, because Lois has to see Martha again in this movie. Imagine her being like, "That was a good conversation we had, Martha."
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
And the thing is, I love the idea as well. So when I watched this movie, I went on Sky Cinema in the UK Thursday morning, and it was the first thing on the homepage. So statistically speaking, some people who don't know all the baggage of the Snyder Cut and everything that happened will have just gone, hey, look, a superhero movie. I'll watch that. And I love the idea of them watching that scene with Lois Lane, and suddenly it's a random green guy. Like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, I think
because we sit there and we go, oh, that's Martian Manhunter. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most of the Easter eggs and the very DC-ish stuff was handled pretty well. I think like they explained the mother boxes in a way that I actually was like, I get what these things are in the thing. I think they explained some of the New God stuff well. I think they sometimes walked us into well, and then sometimes it was just like, and here's nothing you're going to understand. Like Barry explaining the Speed Force, I was just like, sure. Yep.
In fairness, that's the Speed Force. Like,
I mean, he explained it, I guess, as best, as best as it was written. So yes, Alan, you kind of mentioned Batman being one of your favorite parts. It is funny watching Ben Affleck just go, what? To so many things. Is there another part that sticks out as like a personal, like standout favorite? In 4 hours, it might be hard to figure it out, but
Yeah, it is. But Cyborg is good. That like they gave him an actual arc. Ray Fisher is his name, right? I should know by now. We talk about him all the time. But he is a good actor. He sells this character. It's wild because in the original cut, he's nobody, and you just get like the most stiff wooden stuff from him. Probably because he's being directed by Joss Whedon, who is like,
yeah. I went back to my review of the 2017 movie, and I was like, Ray Fisher has no charisma. He's really dull in this movie, and he was my favorite part of this one. I thought he was amazing in it. He was really good.
Yeah, like at first, like he is just playing flat, angry robot man, but then there develops nuance along the way, and then he's like he has a character arc. He has a full character arc.
Yeah, his "I'm not broken" line is such an impactful thing, and I've definitely seen a lot of people within the Black community really grasp to this character, and I'm really glad to see this kind of character get something. I think I don't want to compare it to what Black Panther did, but there is something to see these authentic characters that people are like, oh, I like to see this, and it's happy to see it, because trust me, I feel that way watching Ezra Miller refuse to play this character straight. Inability to be a heterosexual human being is my favorite thing about this movie.
Despite the best efforts of Snyder giving him weird slow motion caresses of
that
Kissy
scene.
Clemens.
That ranks on like my worst. That didn't need to be here, and it's weird, and it sucks. Like,
and it's a prime example of the like fans versus people who just stumble on it thing, right?
Yeah.
Because people who know it will go, oh, that's Iris West, and that's going to be a thing. But if you're just sat there watching it with your tea and crumpets because you found it on Sky Cinema, you're going to be like, this random woman who the Flash just feels up while he's saving her from a car accident is never seen again.
At least the hot dog didn't
it's
turn
even
into
worse
a bad
if you
joke.
if you sort of recognize Kissy Clemens as well. You go, oh, I know who she is. She's a thing. She's definitely going to come back later in the film, and she just doesn't.
Hilariously enough, she wasn't even coming back for the Flash movie. She just got rehired back onto that recently.
Yeah.
They were just going to completely go with a different Iris again, and from what I heard, a different actress in a whole different group of people. I was like, oh, y'all wanted Ginger Iris again. Y'all really wanted Ginger Iris again. Sean, is there a favorite highlight for you? It looks like Tom and Alan both have a Cyborg admiration. What about you?
Yeah, I also really liked Cyborg, but I was very excited to see Black Suit Superman get his time to shine after he was altered so much in the Whedon cut, and obviously we don't have to deal with that ridiculous CGI jawline anymore, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I very much was a fan of Superman here. Still, there wasn't a lot of him here. He's probably the if I was going to build a person, he's like the last build other than it's Cavill.
Very much shortchanged, I think. Still,
yeah, and
it doesn't make a lick of sense. Why is he in the black suit? It looks cool. Black suit Superman.
I wish there was I'm absorbing sun, just a quick line of like, I'm using this to absorb the most sun I can. It literally just could have been an ADR line. There's enough of them here. But I did like his little not impressed line. I thought he was funny because it also has one of my other favorite one-liners is Wonder Woman yelling, "I'm bored" at that man. Boring when he's explaining his villain plot. I was just like, I can't believe people really like Snyder's Wonder Woman, because usually Snyder and women are think people like, but people really like this Wonder Woman here. She was a highlight to me. I think there was soft moments with Wonder Woman that was really cool when her and Alfred were just talking about making tea. I thought was one of the cutest scenes I've ever seen of Jeremy Irons being very flustered that someone's making tea and it's not him. Just a small moment. I think this movie does have small, quiet human moments that I was not expecting, like the Lois and Martha one, which ends up not being as emotional. But I even like when Wonder Woman and Aquaman were talking about their history, and they both were like, both our people say this very ambiguous kind of bland statement, but fine.
Yeah, but that's it though, and that's where I kind of struggled. I think both Wonder Woman and Aquaman actually are kind of sort of left astray in this, because Batman gets a lot of things to do and a lot of depth. I say that advisedly. Cyborg gets quite a lot of depth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like I'm not convinced by any of the Wonder Woman stuff in this movie, really. Certainly, even because obviously Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman was so good. Wonder Woman 84 was less good, but I found a lot to like in it, and especially in the character, and especially in Gal Gadot's performance in 84, which I thought was really good. In this, I don't know, she just seems a bit adrift. It's like the film knows like how incredibly powerful and amazing she is, and so occasionally she'll get like a really rad moment in an action scene, and you'll go, "Yeah, that's Wonder Woman. That's what I want." And then she's just sort of not around as much, and so I kind of struggled with that. I'm surprised that you guys found so many one-liners. I thought this film was absolutely allergic to humor. I thought for 4 hours, there's a couple of flash jokes. But for 4 hours, I wanted to chuckle at least once.
See, this goes to me and Alan talking about the humor Snyder has. Like Batman v Superman, I actually think has a lot of shade to it. Like not just straight out jokes, but like the Daily Planet, do I own that one? No, it's the other guy. Like there's a lot of very like I don't want to say highbrow because that's not Zack Snyder's word, but a lot of jokes that aren't just like ha 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 jokes. And I think this movie has a couple of them. I think Flash has a lot. I think Aquaman actually has some humor to him. He doesn't feel as he feels like the cool drunk uncle that comes to like your family gathering like once a year, and that's kind of what I want Aquaman to be for me.
I can't believe My Man was part of this cut.
Oh,
it's like it's really quiet though. It's like they're ashamed that it's there. It's like My Man.
The lowest level.
But do you know what line is still here as well? Kal-El, no. I will name my dog Kal-El so I can yell Kal-El, no, multiple times.
Yeah.
And I try not to make fun of Gal Gadot's accent because I find it very adorable and attractive and stuff. But that was the first time I was like, "Ooh, you cannot say Kal-El."
It's just not a good line delivery, and I think because I think the idea that Gal Gadot's not a great actor is something that's been talked about a lot, and I think it's nonsense. I think especially if you look at Wonder Woman 84, the amount of work she does in that film compared to like, because it's not as I say, it's not
in that movie is work.
Yeah, it's not the most like cohesive and perfect of films, but she's just fantastic in it, and she elevates it so much. And I think for a lot of this, she's doing that. But yeah, it's just a bad line delivery, I think, and why they didn't just do a different version of it or cut it.
Yeah, just cut it.
Like, ooh, we've got to get to 4 hours 2 minutes, guys. We better leave that line in.
There was definitely a few things from the Whedon version that I wish stayed in terms of humor. Like I do quite like the Pet Cemetery gag. I know a lot of people hate it, but I thought that was always quite funny. Even though I think you could argue it does undermine the sort of seriousness of bringing Superman back, perhaps.
But Flash
and
would
I did
be the
really
one, he would be the one to lighten that moment up the most.
Yeah.
Because the whole resurrection thing here is pretty heavy, especially with Aquaman being like, no, let the man die. Let him rest. Like, I liked Aquaman kind of being against it because he seems to like have no tribe. He doesn't really serve anyone. He just is like, I'm just trying to live my life, very much like what he wanted here. But yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted like a couple of those like ha-ha chuckles, just one or two, like just to like remember. It reminded me of like, so in a lot of Christopher Nolan films, and Tenet definitely had this. There were like a couple of moments where someone just like tapped and went, "You need to put a joke in. You need to put a joke in." Like normal human beings are funny. Like it's very rare that you'll spend 2 hours in someone's company and you won't laugh at least once. Oh. Like that would be a miserable evening. So like, and so the ones in Tenet just feel like they're like forced jokes. Like there's the like, you're gonna have to buy me dinner first line, which is such a write a joke type line. And I feel like there are a couple of those in this. I wanted just like one or two, like, you know, like the zany weird ones that Whedon does that sometimes work and sometimes don't work. Like
the lasso of truth on Aquaman's leg. I thought that was really good, and I kind of wish that stayed in.
Oh, Sean, I thought that was so. I don't know that. It felt like it was further objectifying Wonder Woman, which was the theme of the 2017 movie, is she was an object of desire. Here, I other than that one really clunky flash line of like, do you think she's into me? And I'm like, no, you're gay. But yeah, no, there was a couple lines that I thought was saying, but yeah, I the Lasso of Truth one, I will agree with you. Some of the other one, I liked Pet Sematary. I think that it fits Barry's Allen thing. It is a very Whedon referencing pop culture. I don't know if Zack Snyder knows what pop culture is, other than Hallelujah covers.
Oh, the music! My goodness, the music!
I like the score.
Music.
I like the score. I don't like the music.
Necessarily. Yeah, my problem is not necessarily the score. I quite like the score. I don't mind the score. It's the soundtrack choices. The woozy, misty-eyed ballads that kick in once every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even over that emotional a scene.
Aquaman swigging alcohol just to Nick Cave. Sure, why not?
And that I really struggled with. It just felt like it was like when I was doing like my media studies course. Like that's what I would have done. I would have gone, put a soapy ballad over this bit. Yeah, the score I didn't have too much of a problem with. I thought the score was pretty good, but the soundtrack choices, the like needle drop bits were just. Ugh.
Yeah, he just went to his like most recently listened to on his Spotify and just like it was like that.
If that's what he listens to, I don't want his Spotify playlist.
I don't Spotify playlist either.
I'm surprised you guys said there wasn't a lot of humor here when there was a reach around joke at the end. Come on, that was the funniest line.
Oh no.
Okay.
You've done this and you brought it up and I was just
we're getting to the negatives now. Let's talk about
Jared Leto being the worst thing in this, in almost anything he ever does, but especially this. This is the worst. Like everybody does a pretty good job acting through this movie, and then right at the end of 4 fucking hours, Jared Leto has to come in and just undo all that goodwill. He stinks up the place so bad. He's awful. Like
it's just because in the back of his head all he can hear is Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar. Heath Ledger won an Oscar. Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar. Heath Ledger won an Oscar. That's just going on a loop.
Jeez, it's so bad.
It's restraint that he doesn't say we live in a society like in the trailer. That is Zack Snyder being restrained.
Also, that was Zack Snyder trolling people in that trailer. Like again, when people are like he doesn't have humor, I'm like, nah, he did that to piss people off. But no, there is part of me that absolutely loves the nightmare sequence. It is a mini series I would watch. I would watch Zack Snyder's RPG of DC characters with wacky suits. Like I think it's really cool. I loved him, and the only time I liked Joker there is it led to the Deathstroke being like, why did we bring him here? And Batman's like, bro, I don't know either. I thought that interaction was kind of funny. I like that thing. I can deal without Amber Heard's very bad British accent.
What the hell was that?
I don't want to say British because I don't want to insult the two Brits here, but what was that?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the original cut, she had like a kind of transatlantic accent.
Her normal bad accent, yes.
Yeah.
And then in Aquaman, she just had an American accent.
I
don't remember.
I remember she just has bad line delivery, and I just thought she had a bad accent because she's a bad actress.
Yeah, she's a bad actress.
Yeah, they like ADR'd some of her stuff from the original cut. They changed the accent. It's weird.
Now, don't get me wrong. When she was like sucking Steppenwolf's blood up out of him, I was into that because I love blood bending and water bending, and I thought her powers were cool, and I thought she was going to whoop Steppenwolf's ass for a second. He could have choked her and maybe made a lot of fans happy, because I have seen people being very upset that Snyder has put her in more of this movie and during all the drama, and I'm like, I don't know, they're friends. I don't care. I don't want to get into the Johnny. I just
try and avoid that corner of Twitter if I possibly can. Like Amber Heard Twitter is not good Twitter. And I really try and avoid it.
Yes, no,
the nightmare I struggled with the nightmare stuff. It is like, because when you said like that's a mini series I would watch, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but if you've been allowed to execute your vision for this film, I'm pretty much the understanding that this is probably it. You know, he's done a little bit of Never Say Nevering, but he's pretty much said he's mostly done with Warner Brothers and DC. But why would you shoot this trailer basically for a film that might be good, but it's never going to happen. I was just sat there watching it going, like, this could be okay. I'm quite excited by the idea of Batman and a version of the Joker, whether it would be Leto is a different question. Like having to sort of have this kind of uneasy alliance to do something to like fight Superman or whatever. But it's this just nonsense. It's a different movie as well, because for the most part, this isn't an R-rated movie for the most part. It's a PG-13 movie where they put a bit of like splatter when they pull someone apart. And there's like a couple of F-bombs like sprinkled in. And then at the end, they're like, oh, I'm going to give you a reach around and fucking kill you. And it's just like, yeah, okay. We know they gave you the R rating, but like, damn.
Oh, it's bad.
You're trying so hard. Why?
I did like the line where Joker called Batman out for never dying, and he's always the one that is too egotistical to die. And I did like him calling him out because Batman, that is, I know Snyder's long arcing plan. He did announce it in Jim Lee designed storyboards. He did his whole plan. That's how I know. I don't think he's coming back because he spoiled everything he's doing. Like this was Cyborg and Flash in this nightmare sequence were running to the cosmic treadmill to go to see the scene that we've seen in Batman v Superman. There was a whole plan to what this nightmare sequence was. I know what it is, so I don't think he's doing it. I like the idea. I like that, you know, Joker called Batman out for everyone's still dead. Your parents have died. You refuse to die. And, you know, I thought that was a good line. There's an idea here, like you said, with Joker and Batman being forced to hang out in a post-apocalyptic world that I am so into. I love that idea. That I also have questions of how did the Joker survive this? Like, how is he just like hiding in a bunker somewhere? Is he in that that thing, the fridge from Crystal Skull?
Oh God, don't remind me of that, EJ.
But yes, no, is there other Sean, is there a big negative that stands out for you here? Is it the nightmare sequence as well?
It was definitely what I thought was the sloppiest part of the film. Yeah, like it was interesting as like a window into what we could get, but also I was just watching the whole thing being like, okay, none of these actors were really together on the same day. You've just sort of pasted as much as you could together. The green screen is terrible. Like I didn't hate it. It was interesting kind of, but also just messy. It felt like a YouTube extra that you wouldn't actually put in a film. Like,
Yeah,
like with the Batman v Superman, originally they released a deleted scene on YouTube with Steppenwolf, and then they kind of pasted that into the start of this. And I guess that was fine.
Oh, I mean, I really did like the intro, but I'm a Batman v Superman fan, so they connected the two movies I like together. That was nice of them. I could definitely, there was a lot of stuff in here that I was just like, why I understand why that was cut out. Like, I get why a lot was cut out, like that intro, but I thought
it's like it's the repetition as well. So like, there's the scene with Iris and the car accident, and then like 2 scenes later, Cyborg's car accident, and it's like, yeah, if this wasn't like a glorified assembly edit, which is what it feels like it is,
yeah. If
this wasn't that, someone would go, well, we need to cut one of the car accidents, like, because they're so close, they're really close to each other, and it's like, and there are other bits where like it feels like it's like looping around and repeating the same thing. And like those are just the things that you tighten up really easily, and it could be, I don't know, 3.5 hours long rather than 4 hours 2 minutes.
There's an easy 30 minutes to pull out of this, and I would have enjoyed it so much more. Yeah. I mean, honestly, you could pare down like everything Ezra Miller's doing, and I think that would be better for me. I feel like I might be in a minority on that, though. People seem to like Ezra Miller, and I'm not a fan. So
he still
I like
has,
him as Flash. I like him as Flash. I think he's really fun.
Yeah, I think he's fun. He still has we need to talk about Kevin points for me. He will coast on that film for his entire career. Also, he's he's a little gay, so I got to support him. But he's also not a great person, so who knows? Who knows with him?
There are large question marks, I think is what I think we can say.
Yes. But yeah, no, is there a character in here that, or a sequence, I know we were talking about editing out 30 minutes or so, that you think has to stay here, that is crucial to this film? For me, it is that flashback sequence with Darkseid. I think that is,
oh yeah,
I think it's gorgeous. I would watch that whole movie. I think that is, I like that little baby Darkseid got his ass whooped. I love that he like cucks Steppenwolf this whole movie. He hates Steppenwolf, and I am here for Steppenwolf begging for them. I love that whole New Gods family drama. I think that is so crucial to this film, and I would think Steppenwolf was crucial to this Justice League movie, especially after last time.
As a huge fan of Jack Kirby's Fourth World, to finally see Darkseid on screen and actually have him done well. They don't even do him well in the comics anymore. People have completely forgotten what that character was supposed to be. And this actually, we don't get so much of him, but what's there seems to actually understand that character. And he's not in like huge, stupid armor being like, I'm the buffest badass in the universe. So like but he's still scary. So that would,
and he didn't feel like Thanos. Well. I was so worried because Marvel and DC have just tossed around characters forever, but I was scared he would feel like Thanos in cinematic, and I don't think he did.
I am seeing a lot of people being like, "This is just like Thanos. This is just like Thanos." Like, because
may have done that in my review. Hands up.
But Thanos is like, admittedly, by Chip Starlin, who created him, a ripoff of Darkseid.
Well, that's like all of the comic companies will rip off each other. So I'm agnostic on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that flashback battle sequence is fucking great. It really is. And I think that part of that is why I was so disappointed by like the last hour or so of the action, because that felt more like every superhero movie I've seen. Whereas the scene with Steppenwolf and the parademons fighting the Amazons for the mother box, great. That flashback action sequence, incredible. And so they were like some of my favorite bits of the film. And so, by the time we got to the end, and it was just, they were just CGIing about and like Aquaman's flying through the air and like jumping off things and going, my man. And it's it's like some of the action is great, but some of it is just kind of so normal. And so I just wanted him to like Snyder some of the action up a bit, actually. As weird it is for me to say that as someone who does not rate Zack Snyder.
Let's talk about one piece of bad CG real quick, and that's the vision that Cyborg has as they're about to resurrect Superman.
I think
that's a really good sequence, but it is hideous. There's some things like the Wonder Woman, the shot of her on the pyre.
Great shot.
I think that's a great shot, and then you get a pull out, and you're like, this is ugly. Like,
there's that shot of Superman where he's in the black suit and Darkseid like standing over him, and I actually was like, did they just repurpose a shot from Man of Steel and like change the color? It just looked so bad.
Yeah, it's weird. His face looks weird. It's all like he looks like Alvin and the Chipmunks there. Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah, I did find myself watching a lot of this and going, I kind of like this. I'm enjoying it more than I expected, but Jesus Christ, is it ugly? Like I did.
There's a scene where it's just like, I don't even remember, because like I feel like I spaced out or the movie just blurred, where it's just like some piece of machinery is like swinging in and like there's fire, and I'm just like, what am I even staring at? It's like one of those images like where people manipulate it to be like, you almost recognize something in it, but you don't. It's just like this
all encased within that infuriating 4x3 square.
Oh, you didn't like the aspect ratio?
No, I did not like the aspect ratio.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
Man! Like, even Nolan films, even Nolan's like IMAX-y films, he makes them look normal for your TV. Like, I don't mind if the aspect ratio is like a part of like the storytelling. So I don't know, like The Lighthouse is the first one that comes into my head, where it's all about the claustrophobia of it, or like American Honey. Like that film is all about the size of like space above the characters' heads, and so you need the tall frame to do that. But in this, I was just like, is it just because it's pretentious? Is that why we're doing this?
It's also that it was clearly shot in widescreen. Like, if you want to go back and shoot with old cameras and do whatever,
he shot it all on IMAX, the whole movie.
The whole movie on IMAX, but IMAX is still like not.
I know, at least 4:3. Again, Snyder's always thing. He has said this is what it was always going to look like. it was always this. Because that's why nothing's cut off on the ends, though. It doesn't look, everything is framed to be this, though. That's why I think the other Whedon one looks odd, because I do think they stretched it. I think everyone has a weird look to them in Whedon's. No, this is definitely built for 4-3. This is more and more, I'm like, well, I could see why Warner Brothers was like, well. I agree. Don't agree how they did it. You should have never hired me, and Alan talk about that all the time. I love Snyder. They should have never hired him in the first place. They were always going to do this to him. They didn't. They were just like, okay, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, and I just, other than Nolan picking him to be the predecessor, I don't know why they did this. Because they were always going to hate his artistic choices. He makes things very much not for the mainstream as much as he makes mainstream films. That 4:3 aspect ratio, the long music video like sequences.
This is giving $300 million to a guy that's budget cap should be like 50.
Yeah. Which is why I'm excited to see Army of the Dead, because I'm really excited to see what he does with less money. I think
everything I've seen of that looks badass.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen of it just looks great.
It also helps that there's literal no baggage to that thing. There is no Snyder cut stuff. There's no, well, he got Superman wrong conversations. It's literally just like, let him play it, which is what I've always wanted. I was never a fan of the Snyder cut when the conversation was happening, because I thought it was fans demanding it. And I was just like, let Joss Whedon move on. I mean, let Zack Snyder move on. Like, he's a grown-ass man. I want him to go play in film. But I was like, oh, he wants this. Now I'm like, move on.
Could we end up with 2 critically acclaimed Zack Snyder films released in like 2 months of each other?
Good.
I can't.
2021's is a ride.
I cannot believe it. When I saw that Rotten Tomato score, both scores, audience and critic, it blew me away. And I will say the negative ones are very negative. Like, I've kind of scrolled through a lot of this is no different than Joss Whedon's one, which is how do you guys feel about that critique of this? Do you feel it is different, or is it just the same movie?
I think it is.
Oh, it's a different
markedly
movie.
Different. Like,
yes,
the spine of it, sure, is basically the same, but it's expanded so much, like tonally and the characters, and even parts of the plot as well. Like, I don't think it's just the same movie with more. I think it's different. The context of it as well is different.
Yeah, I mean, for people to be like, the bones of this movie are the same as the movie that it was it's like, yeah, it's the same movie. Like, this was this movie. So, like, but to say that it's that much the same or not that, you can say it's not that much better. Like, I can understand that point of view, but to be like, they're pretty much the same movies. Like, look, I haven't seen that one since 2017, and I know that these are different movies.
I do think the Rotten Tomatoes thing is interesting, because I think there's a little bit of an illusion there, because I think a lot of those positives, like my own, which is a fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, is just a fresh. Like, it's
a lot of
like,
3
I don't
stars.
think it's I think there's a lot of 3 stars in going on, which is what I did. I think there's a lot of that happening, and so I think it is a bit, because like the really good audience score, I think a lot of those audience scores are going to be at 4 and 5 if you force them to do a star rating. Whereas I think I haven't looked, because they might sometimes do an average of the critic score. I haven't looked. I imagine the average of the critic score is going to be like 3.7 out of 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a little bit of illusion going on there, because I think a lot of people are in a similar boat to me, where they were expecting 4 hours of pretty tedious misery and were pleasantly surprised by what they got, which is where I kind of sit on it.
That's the eternal Rotten Tomatoes issue too.
Yeah.
Like if you look
it's inbuilt into the platform, that tension.
Like, because like The Dark Knight Rises has like an 87-88%, but if you look at most of those reviews, people are like, this was fun.
I mean, so even looking at the same weekend, all of the Falcon and Winter Soldier reviews are so middling. They're all just like, it's fine, and it is doing very well on Rotten Tomatoes. But if you look at individual things, I waited. That was the first time I've ever waited to not put something on Rotten Tomatoes because it was at 100 and I was going to be the first person to knock it down, and I did not do that. I waited until 2 other people did it, and I was just like,
I live in fear of the day I have to do that. It's not happened to me yet, but I live in fear.
Yeah, I remember the guy who did it with Get Out. I remember Twitter. That was such a moment where he was the one thing where everyone was just loving Get Out, and he was like, nope, this was racist. And I was just like, God damn it.
I tell you what, someday someone is going to do it to Paddington 2, and me and my little buddy are not ready. We are not ready.
Why I've never reviewed it, Tom. That's why I've never reviewed it.
No.
I know. Even my hard, cynical heart sees Paddington. I'm like, he's so cool.
Most acclaimed movie in the history of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
it's
Suck it, Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Which again, let's go to that. Like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is now the most acclaimed MCU thing of all time.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is weird for TV anyway, because it's like,
I hate scoring for TV.
The overall score is just, a critic might have reviewed 1 episode or 2 or 3, but then if the series creators, as like all the Marvel Netflix stuff did, where like after the review episodes came out, the rest kind of got worse, and so it doesn't really reflect the quality, really.
All right, let's try to wrap this down because we have talked for a little bit. Is there one massive takeaway from this film? How do you guys feel about this thing? This is a kind of our last little bit conversation. I heard a lot of reviews of this has kind of gave into toxic fans. This was giving them what they wanted. This was doing it. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think Snyder Cut coming out has validated toxic fans? Because I had one time a Winnie the Pooh fan tell me to go off myself because I reviewed Pooh a couple years ago very badly. And someone told me to off myself. And I don't think every time that damn yellow bastard's around, I think people are validating him. So
I look at him. Why isn't he wearing bottoms? I hate that bear.
That movie was terrifying, by the way. That Ewan McGregor one, that CG on those animals was chilling.
I didn't like it much.
I think if your take is that we should never give anything to people who are mean on the internet, we should just stop doing things. Because like there's been this weird surge where people are mean about shit on the internet. I'm like, it's been this way for 30 years. Since the internet, since before the internet. The internet has always been the place to be mean to each other about games and movies. Like, that's what we do. And now I feel like people who weren't used to that are getting into it. And like, these people are really shitty. It's like, it's the internet. Did you just arrive?
I think it does create a distorted view. Like, social media creates such a distorted view of humanity and people in general. Like, there are a lot of toxic people on there, but how does that compare to just the general public of people who maybe don't use it that much, just wanted to see a cool superhero movie?
I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I don't think I should have had this movie taken away from me just because, I don't know, maybe do I start being mean to people on Twitter? I don't care.
The whole like premise of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back from 20 years ago was that they're very mad that people are absolute assholes on the internet, so they want to stop a movie. Like, people are assholes about things they like that on the internet. That's just what it is. So
I'm gonna go
and
watch
it's not
that.
like
I'm gonna go watch that movie.
I have a struggle with the whole thing. I'm kind of happy this happened. I'm happy for Snyder that he got to do this. I'm happy for fans like you, EJ, who get to see it and get to enjoy it. But at the same time, like, any critic who's given this a negative review in the last week has had a deluge, and it is more than the deluge they get when you dislike something else. You know, when I came out of Wonder Woman 84 and I tweeted my instant reaction, and it was a kind of middling reaction, I got like a little bit of backlash for not liking Wonder Woman 84 enormously immediately. And the reaction that particularly female critics have had when they've dissed the Snyder Cut is enormous and on a level unprecedented compared to that. And so it's a tough one because there is a toxic element to that community. There are great elements to that community. I mean, some of the things the Snyder community has done in the last 4 years have been incredible. but at the same time, there is a toxic element. Do I think that we should never have done the film because it's rewarding them? No, I don't think that. I think, like you said, Alan, I think that's a strange way to react to fans, because in pretty much any fan community, there's a toxic element. It's just how large and how noisy that toxic element is.
Yeah. I
certainly think there was a shift, because I think in sort of early release the Snyder Cut days, it was very confrontational and at times abusive. And I do think that mellowed and changed as, I don't know, maybe the Snyder Cut got closer. Maybe it was when the cast members started tweeting in support of it. Maybe there was just maybe someone just stood up and went, I need to be the adult in the room. We're not going to get this if we're children about it and we're abusing people on the internet about it.
Yeah.
We need to be a better fan community. Maybe that happened. I don't know. But I do sort of struggle with it, because, you know, I do know people who are critics who are friends of mine who've had horrible abuse for not liking this movie this week. Like, it's happening now, you know, in other web windows compared to this one. And so I struggle with it in a lot of ways. Like I said, I am glad for Snyder, and I'm glad the thing has happened. If you want a takeaway from me, the takeaway I've got, we can stop talking about it now. It came out. It's good. The people who like it. The people who don't like it, don't. I don't want to have a whole conversation about whether he should go and make the Nightmare movie. I don't want to have that conversation. I don't.
We've already started the new hashtag.
Damn! Like, you guys won, and it's good, and the film is good.
Yeah.
I would just like to move on with my life.
It's been well received. Take the W and move on.
Exactly.
Like as much as I said, like, this is how it's always been on the internet, that doesn't mean you guys are right for doing it. Like, calm the fuck down. Stop doing this to people. But, you know, it's just.
I tell you what it is with, and it's not just Snyder, it's DC fans, I think, and Marvel fans are the same. They are the same.
Yeah.
This obsession with Rotten Tomatoes. Obsession with Rotten Tomatoes. Like when I mentioned that Wonder Woman thing, I was getting DMs like, is it gonna be fresh on Rotten Tomatoes? Is it gonna be fresh? Not did you like it? Is it gonna be fresh on Rotten Tomatoes? Like, that was what mattered. Like,
it's absolutely
the obsession with Rotten Tomatoes.
People don't like, it's a review aggregator. If a lot of people didn't like it, that's fine. The way film criticism is supposed to work is that you find a film critic who you mostly agree with, whose opinion you trust, and then you follow that person. And aggregators are just a broad view of something. Like, it's like, most people didn't like it. Well, go find the guy that did like it, and, you know, see what he has to say about other things. You know, find the guy that shares your taste. That's
and it makes things difficult in some ways for critics, because you find yourself going into certain movies worrying about expressing your opinion on them. Like, Joker was a big one. Like, looking back, I gave Joker 3 stars, and I was critical of some elements of it and really positive of some elements of it. I was probably too kind to Joker. I'd probably go 2 stars now. But at the time, giving Joker 2 stars felt like a statement that invited a mob onto you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people were not nice to me when I said mean things about that movie because I hated it.
Yeah, and I sort of thought that going into this. I think I was having a conversation with a friend like the night before it came out. Like, I was saying, I'm going to watch it first thing in the morning, and I am going to review it. And I was like, I'm kind of nervous about it. I kind of hope I like it, because that makes my life easier if I like it. And thankfully I did. But like, I was worried about the prospect of having to write something negative about this. And like, I don't have a big platform. Not many people will read my reviews of things. Like, but friends I know who've got a much bigger platform, like, they're worried about expressing their opinion on this film. They have done it, and sometimes they've had horrifying abuse for it. It's so difficult, and like, it's a problem, because while, you know, I don't know if the toxic element of this fandom is bigger than in other fandoms, but it's louder. And it's more organized. Actually, the toxic element of this fandom is quite organized, and it does feel like if you say something negative about it, you sort of invite a wave, and it's difficult. And so that's kind of my concern, that things like this make film critics feel like they have to talk a certain way, or they have to frame their opinions in a certain way, when what we really need is a sort of free and honest discussion about this, because it's a film, this particular one is, that's got a lot to talk about. We've just talked for an hour about it and we've barely scratched the surface. Like, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to dissect. There's a lot it does really well. There's a lot it does really wrong. There's a lot it says about fan culture. You know, the tension between the 3 hours and 45 minutes of movie we get and the last 15 minutes of kind of like, here's one for the fans stuff. That's really interesting. We should be able to discuss that. But when people dare to criticize things like that, there's a mob. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the tension of it, that you want to be able to speak freely about something. And, you know, the nice thing about certain communities and certain platforms is that you can talk about this and you can have an adult conversation about it. But if your platform is big enough, there will be people who are like, oh, fuck you, speak ill of Zack Snyder, you're a terrible person, a terrible critic, blah, 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 blah. And like, that hits you hard, because the thing about writers and critics, and I'm sure there are people in this call who will agree with me, are that we like to be liked, we like affirmation, we like to be brilliant, because that's why we perform to a platform, either in writing or in podcasts or in video, because we want people to say, I agree with you, you're a cool guy. We don't want people calling us every name under the sun because we didn't like a movie about Batman. Like, damn. I think I'm done. That became far more of a thing than I wanted it to.
You got it off your chest. That's fine, my friend. And not that I think you're wrong or anything. I agree with you 100%. That's why everyone should be Rob Zombie fans. We're used to everyone hating us, and you know, just
I feel like I habitually just attract like the worst people. Like, and it's by no fault of my own. Like, I liked The Last Jedi a lot, and
Yeah,
follow me for that.
I was saying, let's make this a Last Jedi podcast.
I like The Last Jedi.
okay, we're gonna switch gears now.
8 years too late on that too, but actually, there's still probably a Last Jedi podcast that gets 1 billion views a week.
Oh, it's definitely happening. I remember I got into an argument once about The Last Jedi on Twitter. It was like 2 years after it came out, and I forgot that at the time my Twitter header was a picture of me and Rian Johnson from when I interviewed him. So obviously the first thing that happened when I tweeted that I liked The Last Jedi was they were like screenshotting my header going, of course he likes it, he's friends with Rian Johnson.
All right.
I have no one to blame but myself.
Is any other final thoughts, Sean? Do you have a takeaway from this? No more bullying?
Yeah, no more of that, obviously. I'm kind of not particularly interested in seeing like a continuation, really. I kind of like this as a little window into what could happen, but I'm happy for it to end there and we all just move on. But we'll see what happens. Like, the fact the Snyder Cut exists is completely insane to me anyway. Yeah. So you never know. If this drives tons of subscribers to HBO Max, like, we could get it. Who knows?
Yeah. I think we have a cut that's going to be bigger than the Donner cut, and then that one weird Ridley Scott producer cut of Alien 3. So, or not Ridley Scott, David Fincher. So look at that. We're moving ahead. This is the new cut. Alan, any final thoughts?
It's very 4 hours.
Every 4 hours, yes.
And
there's no getting away from it.
No. And stop being mean to people about superhero movies because they don't matter. And maybe that's gonna get
go bully the people who gave Hocus Pocus a bad review on Rotten Tomatoes.
If there's a takeaway, it's that superhero movies don't matter. Like,
there's so many things in the world to be angry about, no matter what your views are. Like, go get pissed about real things and stop getting mad about Superman movies. Like,
is there a more internet thing than talking about something for an hour and the conclusion is none of it matters?
That's everything I do on the internet. The eventual like whittling down that I always get to. It's like, none of this matters.
I mean, that's me as a film critic. I love what I do, but I literally don't take myself seriously. I just enjoy talking about goofy things.
I love these things. They don't matter.
Yeah. My favorite director is John Waters. Truly, none of my opinions matter. Like, so no one should ever take me seriously. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this wonderful roundtable about Zack Snyder's Justice League, about being an anti-bully, and somehow I made this about Hocus Pocus at the end. So thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone. Alan, we will be talking again soon. I might invite you in for another Snyder conversation. You're not off the hook yet.
Oh no.
All right, guys, thank you so much.